Cambridge ICT Chapter 1 Types and Components of Computer Systems, Part 3. What did we do previously? We studied hardware and software. We have studied that software consists of the operating system and application. The operating system provides a graphical user interface. You have 4 types of user interface: command line user interface, graphical user interface, gesture-based user interface, and dialogue-based user interface. Now, let us go to hardware. This diagram tells everything about the computer because you have input devices: keyboard, scanner, microphone. All of these are input devices. Input devices input data to the computer. And also you have on the other side output devices like printer, like monitor. All these output devices display data out of the computer. Inshallah, in chapter 2, we will study in details all input and output devices. Okay? In the middle, at the heart of the computer, we have the central processing unit. We can say that this is the brain of the computer, the CPU. This part, the input devices, input data. Output devices display data. The central processing unit calculates and processes the data. The central processing unit is the part of the computer that interprets and executes commands from the program. The program is in memory. The CPU takes instruction by instruction, understands it, and performs it. This is the active part of the computer, the central processing unit. The CPU is made up of a control unit. The control unit controls everything, which controls the input and output devices, and an arithmetical logic unit, which carries out calculations and make logical decisions. So the arithmetical logic unit is there for all the calculations. The control unit is there for all the control. Study this. The control unit controls all CPU operation. It controls input and output devices, controls the movement of data within the computer, retrieves instruction and data from memory, decodes and execute software instruction. So the control unit inside the central processing unit controls everything. Also, the arithmetic and logic unit carries out calculations, comparison, and logical decisions. Okay, this is all what you need to study about the central processing unit. Okay, however, for the central processing unit to work, it needs the program to be in the main memory RAM. Let us study about main internal memory. The main internal memory, RAM. Let us study everything about the RAM. We have RAM and ROM. Both of them are referred to as main memory or internal memory. Okay, let us go and study here. RAM is random access memory. The RAM is random access memory, where data is temporarily stored when running application. When a program is running, it has to be in the RAM, and the processor reads the instructions from the RAM very quickly and processes them. RAM holds the work that is currently being done by the user. Also, let us look at this. When you, for example, run Excel, it is now loading to the RAM. Okay? And when you put numbers here, like for example, this and that, these numbers are now in the RAM. And when you do calculations, this calculation is now done in the RAM. The RAM is fast, the RAM is read and write, the processor can access all the data and programs in the RAM. However, there is one little very bad thing about the RAM. We call it volatile. The RAM is volatile. Which means if you turn off the computer, data in the RAM will be erased. So if you want to save the data, you need to save it on the secondary storage. The secondary storage is the hard disk. The computer system cannot work without the hard disk. Okay? So main internal memory, RAM, we didn't study yet the ROM. However, the secondary storage, backing storage, we have the hard disk. There are two types of hard disk. HDD, this is the old one that reads and writes data using magnetization. And SSD, this is the new one. It's very tiny chip like this and can read and write data without any moving parts. Inshallah, in chapter 3, we will study secondary storage, hard disk, and SSD and HDD, and also talk again about RAM and ROM. Okay? So now you know all the details about RAM. Study all this. Whatever is written here is very important. Let us study about the ROM. ROM is the abbreviation of read-only memory. ROM stands for read-only memory. Read-only memory is a memory used to store permanent info. It is read-only. It comes from the factory with some data and programs on it, and these programs can never be altered. The ROM is used, it's not very popular. You will never notice the existence of a ROM unless you are studying ICT or computer science. There is some very basic programs in the ROM that are very essential when you first turn on your computer. Okay? We call it startup commands. So the startup commands when you first turn on your computer will be on the ROM or the BIOS, basic input output system. Okay? ROM holds instructions that need to be unchanged, such as program cycles in a washing machine. If you have a washing machine, we call it an embedded system because inside the washing machine, there is a small, tiny computer embedded inside. That small, tiny computer, the program for that small, tiny computer will be on a ROM because the ROM size is very small. And that program of the washing machine is permanent. Okay, you need the ROM. Okay, but please notice the ROM is non-volatile. The data on the ROM is permanent. Doesn't go when your computer is turned. Doesn't go at all. You cannot even change it if you want. Okay, so now you have now you know all this data. You have the central processing unit, which has a control unit and an arithmetic and logic unit. You have main memory RAM that holds data and programs during running, and it is volatile. You have read-only memory ROM that is permanent with the startup instruction or BIOS. Please go and study this. Startup instruction and BIOS, basic input-output system, that are very essential when you first turn on your computer. And also you have secondary storage and backing storage. Please notice secondary storage and backing storage have larger capacity than the main memory RAM. For example, the RAM is 16 gigabytes. Your hard disk will be like 500 gigabytes. But it is a bit slower. Actually, much slower than the RAM. That's why a program not running will be on the hard disk. The program running will be in the RAM to run fast. Okay? Okay. Now you know uses of ROM. ROM contains some coding known as boot file, tells the computer what to do when it is first starts up. I think we know this. We have been through this. Okay, what else? We call these internal computer hardware because the CPU is inside the computer. RAM and ROM are inside the computer. The motherboard is inside the computer. The motherboard is inside the computer. The motherboard is a printed circuit board found in all computers. It allows the processor and other computer hardware to function and communicate with each other. So you put here the processor, you put here the RAM, here you have the USB ports, here you have like for the HDMI sound card. Somewhere here, there should be a sound card and a graphics card. Somewhere here. And maybe this is the ROM chip. Maybe. You don't need to know all these details. Just know that this is the motherboard. Okay? What else? We have a graphics card. A graphics card display graphics out of the computer. Like, for example, my HDMI cable is displaying on the screen because I have an HDMI driver. Okay? A graphics card. Also, sound card. Graphics card and sound card are both hardware. And both are internal hardware. Okay? The sound card gives the computer the ability to produce sound. Okay? And now we talk about hard disk drive. There are two types, hard disk HDD and hard disk SSD. We will study them all in details with benefits and drawbacks in the chapter called Chapter 3. In Chapter 3. Okay? Okay, now we are done with this. I hope it is clear. Hardware components. Okay, let us finish. I wish to finish everything. Types of computers. You have a desktop computer. The desktop computer consists of separate units that cannot be moved. Okay? The desktop computer consists of separate units but is not portable. Okay, this is the desktop computer. Okay? We also have the laptop computer. The laptop computer is all integrated together to aid portability. However, the capability of a desktop computer is much better at a more reasonable price. Maybe in the exam, they will ask you to compare benefits and drawbacks of a desktop computer PC and with a laptop computer. Also, we have a tablet computer. The tablet. Okay. Even the smartphone is considered as a computer. And we have something called phablet that is midway between a tablet and a smartphone. Okay? Please study all these benefits and drawbacks and read all the mark schemes. I'm providing you with complete answers for my classified. Just study them because you need lots of knowledge and I cannot put them all in my notes. It would become very large. Okay? Advantages of using desktop computer. More choice of devices. And devices can be replaced if fails. Easier to upgrade. Cheaper than laptop for the same performance. The desktop is cheaper. However, not portable, large footprint, large side, and trailing cables. You have a cable for a mouse, you have the cable for the keyboard, and this may result in tripping hazard. Laptop computer, all integrated together to aid portability. Takes up less space, are portable and lightweight. Okay? Disadvantage, more expensive than a PC for the same performance. Screen size may be smaller. Pointing device, that touchpad is more difficult to use. More chance of being stolen. Okay? I'm trying to put some popular comparisons. However, I cannot tell in the final exam what two devices will be compared. You have to understand and answer all questions. Tablet, internet-enabled portable computer. It has a touch screen rather than a keyboard. It has an online screen. It has Wi-Fi and 4G and 5G. It has front and back facing cameras. More portable. Larger than the smartphone. The tablet is larger than the smartphone. Lower power consumption. Smaller screen area than the laptop. So you have to understand what two devices you are comparing. Okay? The touch screen and on-screen keyboard are more difficult to use. More difficult to produce complex worksheets. Then we come to the smartphone. The smartphone is also considered a computer. It has an operating system. It has input devices, output devices. Okay? You can use it for many things other than making a phone call. You can send SMS, short message, video calling, send and receive email, surf the internet, voice over internet. Actually, with Zoom, we are using voice over internet. Global positioning, GPS, telephone banking to send and receive, like InstaPay, but commercial names are not allowed. Advantage, more portable. Just look at these comparisons. Carry out your resource, phone on text. Disadvantage, smaller area than a laptop or PC. The last thing to talk about is the phablet. The phablet is something in between a smartphone and a tablet. Just consider it as a tablet with a smaller screen, or consider it as a phone with a larger screen. Something in between. Some of the latest smartphones have been designed as a hybrid between a tablet and a smartphone. These are referred to as a phablet. A phablet is a tablet that functions as a smartphone. It is a device that has the features and probabilities of a smartphone and a tablet. Something in between. Okay? I will stop here. Please study them and memorize and do all the classify. Okay? Thank you very much for your attention.